Hello, everyone. My name's Alan Feliz. I'm the executive director of One Nation, Every Vote, or OneV. We're a nonpartisan organization that shares the experiences and stories of American voters and communities that honor their roles as voting citizens. OneV also shares facts and information about past and upcoming elections with the hope that all Americans exercise their right to vote in local, state, and federal elections. In 2022, OneV is committed to providing vital information on state level races, which, as you know, often don't get enough attention, as most political stories are often connected to federal races, the midterms, and the upcoming presidential contests. However, state level public officials hold an enormous amount of power around specific issues that affect Americans in their everyday lives. Including the fairness of upcoming elections. I'm very delighted today to be joined by Seth Blattman, who is running for the House of Representatives in Arizona, District 9, along with Lorena Austin, who I had the pleasure of speaking with earlier. After the Great Recession, Seth, a graduate of Arizona's public schools, worked to secure the future of his family's small business. His priorities for a better Arizona include strong public education, good jobs, and empowering people over special interests. Seth, welcome to OneV. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great. So Seth, let's start at the beginning. Would love for folks to hear your personal story. Tell us a bit about your upbringing, and really what about your personal story has led you to this point of running for public office?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Arizona, and as you said, I took over running a family business. So I took over running this family business about 10 years ago. I had just finished up graduate school, and this was coming out of the Great Recession. And like a lot of small businesses, my family's business, which is furniture manufacturing, and we also have a retail store, it had fallen on tough times. So I was asked to come home and provide some new leadership, some new direction. And of course, I said yes, because I had a responsibility to my family and the business I was brought up in. We're doing a lot better now. We've been growing now every year for 10 years, and I consider the business to be on the right track. But that responsibility I felt to my family's business is the feeling I get when I think about my state. I feel like I have that same responsibility to my state. I love Arizona. We are succeeding in many ways, but we are also falling short in many ways. As you pointed out, I care deeply about public education. We are bottom 5 in the nation in how much we spend on education. Being bottom 5 in anything is bad, but how much we're investing in our children's future is just embarrassing. I also want to help small businesses and working class families, and reforming government's a big one for me. Government ethics reform, campaign finance reform, and fighting voter suppression and extending access to the ballot box to as many people as possible. I'll leave it there, and yeah.
Great. Well, Seth, I'm always fascinated by how folks connect what they're doing in their professional lives with public service, and that bridge between what they do professionally and how that leads to running for office. Can you tell us a little bit about why you feel like public service is the next best step for you in your career?
Yeah, I'll sort of answer this in two ways. So, like professionally, at work, at my business, I was brought in to make changes. I was brought into a business that was, for lack of a better word, failing, and to turn it around. And I was brought in there to make big changes, to look at what was systemically wrong, we were regularly producing bad outcomes, what were producing those bad outcomes, look at systems that needed to be changed, break those systems and put in place new ones. And I kind of view government the same way. We have a system of government that is regularly leading to the same bad outcomes. Here in Arizona, we passed propositions, Prop 208, that gave $1 billion to public schools, that people have told our state what we want with public schools. Our legislature then undid Prop 208, and the courts later undid it. We also passed a proposition to not expand vouchers, yet our legislature did the opposite. So we have a system where we are regularly leading to bad outcomes, and I want to go in and look at reforms to try to change the system so that we now lead to good outcomes, so that we lead to the outcomes that actually represent what the people want. I'd also say that, we were talking earlier about how this organization was formed. 2016, that was a big year for me. That was when we had someone running for president that I considered very anti-democratic. That was the year that I got involved and stay involved. I had been involved prior to that for causes like SB 1070 or protesting wars. But 2016, I was a registered independent till then. That's when I registered as a Democrat. I got involved, started going to local meetings, learned about the state of our state, learned where we were in education funding. And then in 2020, I ran for state senate against Senator Ugenti Rita, whose main purpose in office was to make it as hard as possible for people to vote. And that was something I took personal offense to and decided to challenge her for that office.
Thanks for sharing that, Seth. And it's certainly an understatement to say that some of these election cycles have been pivotal, right, in our lives and in our service, whether it's running for office or starting a nonprofit organization. I do want to come back to voting rights because, as you know, that's our main focus. But before we go to voting rights, I want to ask you a little bit about how you view the priorities of District 9, the district that you're running for. What do you feel like are the biggest issues right now that, someone in the role that you're trying to assume should take on?
Yeah, so when running for office, as a legislator, I am there to represent my community. And to that end, myself, Lauren Austin, who I'm running with as a team, Eva Birch also running an LD9. We knock doors every day. We engage with our community every day. We talk to voters every day, and we are genuinely interested in what concerns they have and what's important to them. A month or two ago, as gas prices were hitting a peak, that was something I heard at every door. That rising prices were affecting people. There's a lot of working class people in my district who, when the price of gas rises and the price of groceries rise, they have to make a decision then because they can't afford necessarily to buy as much as both. They pointed out that their wages weren't rising in concert. So economic situation is weighed deeply on my district. And I would say another thing we hear at doors a lot, well, since the Dobbs decision, abortion, we've been hearing, and the passion behind the issue. It's nearly, it's a lot of men, but really, like at this point, it's most women I've been speaking to. We really have seemed to focus in on this issue, and we've had a constitutional right taken away from us, and people are extremely angry about this. And something for me that comes up at a lot of doors is the reform aspect. And I would just say, I wouldn't say there's necessarily on a lot of people's minds, but when I bring it up, that's something that everyone agrees with, that we all think that government could be doing a better job than it currently is. And we'd all like to see that government succeed.
Right. And Seth, thanks for the reminder that given the trend with the Supreme Court and also just federal inaction, a lot of important issues like reproductive rights are now rest with the states. We appreciate that reminder. Now, going back to the issue of voting rights that you mentioned a couple minutes ago, can you tell us, as a state legislator, how do you hope or how do you think you can help to bring greater access to the ballot to folks, or fight back, some of the voter suppression that you've seen in your state? How can you help with the issue of voting rights in the next phase of your career?
Yeah, so it starts with undoing the many voter suppression measures that have been taking place over the last decade in Arizona. It's been a goal of the current majority to really make it as hard as possible for people to vote. One of my old representatives that actually represented my district and me talked about the quality of votes and not the quantity of votes, that some people's votes matter more than other people's votes. So they've done things like trying to kick people off of the permanent early voter list. They've tried to get rid of mail-in voting, which the majority of Arizonans greatly approve of. They've closed emergency vote centers. they've reduced access to the ballot box and really done everything they can to try to make it so that as few people vote as possible. So undoing the measures that have taken place over the last several sessions is step one, and then extending that access to as many people as possible. Same-day voter registration, increasing access to the ballot box, automatic voter registration. These are all things that we absolutely should be looking to do. And if we have the power to do so in the next legislature, I think we absolutely have the will to make it happen.
Great. And Seth, look, as a nonpartisan organization, regardless of what party you represent, we appreciate any candidates or any public officials that are willing to work on those issues, because we believe it's important to bring greater access to the ballot and protect that constitutional right. So thank you for that. Seth, I've mentioned this a number of times, throughout this interview, and it's really a theme for this series, which is getting people to understand the importance of state legislative races. I'm sure that part of your conversations that you have with your constituents is trying to convince them that they should care about these races as much as any race. What's your message to your constituents to really care about state legislative races?
Yeah. So first, I inform people of the district that we're in. We all know we just finished redistricting. So my district is LD9, which the way they drew the lines ends up being the most competitive district in the state of Arizona. So this district goes 50%, 50%. So I think my party out-registered the other party by 100 voters initially. So you really can't get much closer than that. And right now, the state legislature is 31 Republicans to 29 Democrats. It's 16 to 14 in the Senate. So as a Democrat, we are 1 seat away from blocking legislation that I deem to be not great, 2 seats away from taking the majority. So we are right on the edge. And the state legislature has an effect on people's lives. People are upset about the Dobbs ruling. And not everyone knows that the legislature is now deciding the legality of abortion in our state, that the undo of Roe v. Wade made it so that it's up to the states now. So they have the power with their vote to decide whether abortion is legal or illegal, and trying to explain to them that the legislature really is there to work for them and produce results for them.
Right. And Seth, thank you for sharing some of the stats from your district about how close it is, how evenly divided it is. A few years back, we had a series on an individual voter making a difference in a local or state election, and we've seen many examples of that throughout our history. I'm sure it's going to be interesting in your district, and definitely makes your job far more interesting, than other state level races. But wish you the best of luck. Seth, I hate to cut this wonderful conversation short, but I know you have a busy day ahead of you, and we're at time. Final softball question for you, which is, how can we learn more about your story and your candidacy? Where should folks go to learn more about Seth Blattman?
www.sethblattman.com. We tried to make it easy, and yeah, please, if sign up for anything. If you're not in Arizona, knocking doors is off the table, but phone bank, text bank, postcards, data entry, we need all the help we can get in order to win this election. So thank you for having me.
Great. On behalf of OneV, Seth, thank you for sharing your time, for sharing your story and your passion for public service. And to our followers, thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you at our next conversation in our 2022 state legislative series. Thanks again, Seth. Really appreciate it.